100 Days Collective.
This is Take Two.
Sinead Walsh!
What's up?
What's up? The one thing I wanted to tell you, right, and I've been
Right.
holding it,
Okay.
is I went to watch Bellator MMA. So are you like into sports and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I went to watch it live.
Right.
And I've been buzzing for so many months. And when the announcer announced like Sinead Kavanagh versus Leah McCourt,
Yeah.
it was like, Sinead! I was like, I want that name.
It's a great name.
Like,
It
it's
is.
such a good announceable name.
Yeah.
So, like, moving forward,
Sinead Shaw.
yeah, like, you can't get married, that you can have that.
I was going to say change your name, but yeah, cool.
No, can have that. I have no problems with visa because, like, Europe, but just for the crack, you know, like, you can have my surname.
Definitely. Sweet.
But anyways, for your comedy gigs, I think you should either have someone announcing your name like this. I don't know like how
I like
close
that.
you are with like your announcer buddies, but like going on to like the next one is like, and your host,
You know what?
Sinead. What?
Yes. You know what? When I'm hosting, I always try and like, so there's like a certain etiquette to introducing your next comedy act or whatever, and I had to learn this, but you can't pick them up too much in case they mightn't do well, or they, you know, the
I
audience.
see.
So you know, when you like put like a lot on someone, where you'd be like, they are one of the top comedians and blah blah blah. So I try not to do that, but what I do is give them a big, like, you know, please welcome to the stage, I don't know, Ali O'Rourke, you know. So I think it I think it is I think it's a nice thing to bring someone onto the stage like that. And I used to do MMA as well.
Did
so
you?
yeah. So I
For
can
how long?
understand for 3 years.
Okay,
And
quite a while.
Yeah. And like Sinead Kavanagh's an absolute animal.
Oh my god, she's so scary.
She's unbelievable. But she's so nice.
Is
She's
she?
so nice. So I used to train the same gym as her,
Were you at
SBG.
SBG?
So I started in, where was the first? I started in a place in Swords. I was there for a while. Then I went to Team Rhino, which was out in Finglas. And then I went to, because my job moved, so I ended up out in SBG on the old, what's it called? The Long Mile Road. And Sinead was there. And she's incredible. Oh my God, she's such a nice person as well. Really, really sound. A lot of them are very, very
Yeah.
nice people, you know, and very chilled out and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Fucking 3 years.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, did you quit just because it was getting too much? Was it?
No, I moved to Cork. I lived in Cork for 3 years, and when I moved there was just so, like, I was so busy with work, and the person I was with at the time moved down shortly after and moved in with me, and we were just kind of caught up in a lot of things at the time, and I let it go. I let a lot of hobbies go, which I will probably get into later. Eventually I came around to comedy, which was nice, but I still like it a lot. Like, I mean, you know, any chance to go boxing or kickboxing, things like that, I will take, but I haven't done it in a long time now. So.
Which was your favourite part of MMA? Let's put it that. Was
Muay
it
Thai? Muay Thai, yeah, like
That's
striking.
what I do.
Oh, no
Muay
way.
Thai, yeah.
Is it around here? Yeah, unreal.
Yeah.
And
I might bleep that out. I don't want people to know where I am.
that's fine. That's fine.
That's
Yeah.
what this person. No, but yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
And how long are you doing it?
I only started in January,
Good
and
on
that's just because of like being an adult and hobbies.
Yeah.
That's something that a lot of people should really think about is
Yeah.
what do you do outside of work?
So I don't want to, like, I don't know what questions you have lined up or whatever, but yeah, I got to a point with comedy, or so I got to a point in life, I got out of that relationship. It was, in hindsight, quite a toxic relationship, for reasons I'm not going to get into obviously now, but I had a chat with myself one day essentially, and I was like, okay, what is my dream job? And I wasn't able to answer that. And I was like, that's weird, because so much of my life is work. And then I was like, okay, what are my hobbies? I was like, well, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm not playing football anymore. I watch football, but that's not
exactly
a hobby.
Yeah, let's put it that way.
It was that moment that I realised I have lost my way somewhere here, and I don't even think I was in the emotional space at the time or mental space to be able to pull myself back on track. but I knew I would have to eventually. And between one thing and another, as the universe does, it put comedy in my tracks. And yeah, I'm so grateful it did, because I think I really lost my way for a few years there, you know, and now I'm happier than I've ever been, you know. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's so awesome. Sometimes the way the world works, it presents opportunities, the palm of your hand, and it is that decision that you have to make of, listen, am I going to take this? I am going to be out of my comfort zone for a very long time.
Yeah.
But most of the time, these options are there. It's like, are you going to like welcome it?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Because even with comedy, like I am obviously never going down that route just because of like my nature as a person. But I can only imagine an opportunity like that and being like, I will shit my pants on stage. You know?
Yeah, I think that's a fairly natural...
it's such a natural thing.
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
probably not one of the toughest. Like this is not a fucking competition of what's tougher.
Yeah.
But it is very scary of like putting yourself out there and people not laughing at your jokes.
Absolutely. It's yeah, look, I mean, it's very easily a possibility. You know what I mean? I was very fortunate with the people that were around me at the time. So I was working in a place in Cork called the Mardyke Entertainment Complex. My boss came to me one day and was like, we're opening a comedy club. And I was like, cool. I was the marketing and sales manager at the time. And I was like, deadly. And he was like, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that and blah, blah, blah. And here's where it's going to be. I was like, yeah, deadly. And bearing in mind, I was in like the height of a depression at the time. And I was like, what do you want me to do? And he was like,
yeah, do you need the logo?
Yeah. And he was like, market it, obviously. And I was like, and that, I was so on brand for him. So anyway, and then there was two comics that came in to run the place. One of them was Mike Morgan, who is honestly one of Ireland's brightest prospects at the moment. Like, he's incredible. But I spent a lot of time in that club and other clubs, specifically, like, obviously watching other comics, but specifically Mike. And Mike is so good. Like, he's so good. And then I fell in with another guy called Cornelius O'Sullivan. And yeah, I suppose, so I always had good guidance in terms of, I'd have a bit and I'd be like, okay, what do you think of this? And they'd be like, too shock factor, don't do that. And that's what a lot of comics do early on. Or they'd be like, that's not funny. Or, you know, try the method of threes there, you know, funny, funnier, funniest, or, you know, there's different techniques and stuff. So they helped me with those little tips at the beginning and went from there. So I don't really know, like, I mean, Jesus, of course, there's rough gigs and you have to learn and that kind of thing. But
I'm going to stop you there. He's taking a fucking dump, I think.
Is that what it is? I thought someone was coming in. I can't hear out this ear at the moment, so I thought someone was at the front door.
What do you mean you can't hear out of this ear?
As in, it gets a bit fucky sometimes.
Stop.
So yeah.
Really?
So it's a bit fucky, but
yeah, okay, he's done. I really hope it wasn't a shite, honestly.
It's okay, don't worry.
Neon.
I have plenty of friends with plenty of pets, so I promise you, it's all good.
No, it's all good for me because, like, I have a gag reflex.
Debbie pukes on her own podcast. Tune in.
Yeah, like, I'll be gagging. As in, if he's doing nothing, it's fine, and like, I'll leave this in. But like, I have a really bad. I have no idea how I'm gonna deal with like parenthood. For now, she's been relatively okay. If anyone's listening, by the way, I got a puppy, and Sinead and I are filming. Yeah,
the most
that's
adorable
Neon,
puppy.
fucking washing his hands like on the fucking litter box. I'm telling you,
I love cats.
I have no normal anything in here.
I think your girlfriend's gonna be pretty pissed off at that statement, to be honest.
No, she's not normal either. Like, fuck everyone.
I love this. I love this.
But anyways, I just got a puppy, and we're filming at my place. It's a Saturday, right? So I've got a puppy on my fucking lap. Neon the cat is, as usual, timing everything as horrible as can be. Perfectly. And I have a really bad gag reflex. So the thought of like shit. And then, yeah, exactly. We'll get into that as well. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if the shitty smell kicks in, and then we'll actually pause it if that's the case.
That's okay.
Anyways. Yeah, Mike.
Yes, just I suppose, like, I was lucky. Like, don't get me wrong, there were gigs where I went up, and obviously you have to learn, you know what I mean? But I just got so obsessed with it straight away. Like I remember I was maybe like a minute and a half, 2 minutes into my very first 5-minute set, and I literally remember thinking like, oh my god, I fucking love this. Like this is it. Like I don't know if you've ever put on like a pair of shoes that just feel like they fit perfectly instantly, but that was what it was like. And Mike always says, so he filmed my first set and he said to the T, like it was like 10 seconds left in the set and I reached over for the mic stand to put it back, and he looked at Con and he goes, fucking hell, she's timed this well. And then I finished and the place, you know, they got a very warm I suppose applause after, and Mike turned around to Con and said, oh, she's fucked now, kid. And
she got it,
and
like,
that's it. Yeah. And then I was like, I'm not like Eminem or anything, but I was turned up to like music open mic nights in Cork, being like, can I have 5 minutes? And they're like, yeah, but this is a music open mic night. I'm like, I don't give a shit, like I need the 5 minutes, and they would give it to me. And you know, and I always say now that comedy happens in the rooms of bars that nobody cares about. Like that's kind of like the saying or the mantra I have. But it was very much that in the early days, you know what I mean, where I was going to like, I was fucking performing to like a man and his dog essentially, you know, but it helped me work things out pretty quickly. And you know, look, I'm still very new, as in I'm in it 3.5 years, which is still pretty new. Like I'm friends with people who are like 10, 12, 20 years in it, but my progression has come along nicely. Like I'm happy with the rate of progression, and just keep working my ass off and
what
get
would
better.
like not even a reward, but what do you measure yourself by in comedy terms anyways? Is it laughs or is it how many seats are in the place?
That's an interesting question actually. I'm not sure I've ever actually really considered quantifying it, but I think obviously, so I run my own gig as well, the Sunday Rollover, which is a brunch time gig, and it happens monthly in Bow Lane. So when I have that hat on, so that's the thing in my life, right? I wear a lot of different hats at different times. But yeah, when I have my promoter hat on, of course, it's tickets sold, repeat business. How did the bar do? Were the comics happy at the end of it? You know, like all that factors in. When it's my own performance, yeah, laughs are a big thing, right? So there's certain like mechanics that you can, or certain numbers. So for example, you are aiming for the professional level is roughly 7 laughs a minute, right? Wow. So okay. Yeah, and then I had a chat with a comic, Eddie Malarkey, who owns Crackdown in town, and Eddie is absolutely incredible, fantastic comedian. But he said to me, we had a conversation, and he said, you know what I do sometimes? He was like, I write out my set or like type it out. He was like, I highlight where I get the laughs, and then he was like, and I try and reduce the in between so that my gag ratio is higher. So what you're almost aiming for is nearly like a laugh every line is kind of how you need to think about it. You know, that's where you need to get to. So yeah, so there's that as well. Like I had a gig during the week there in the Comedy Cellar in the International, and some lines that usually smash like fell, you know, the crowd was silent, and I was really annoyed at myself afterwards. Not that I hadn't delivered well. I felt like I'd done the performance. I've smashed up that room with that material before. It just didn't resonate with the crowd as well as it usually does. And I was annoyed at myself for that, for not figuring that out earlier, you know, or adjusting course and stuff. So yeah, I think after a while you very much know yourself whether you've done well or not, you know, and I'm very hard on myself a lot of the time, but I'm okay with that because I'm ambitious and that's how I've gotten to where I am now, you know what I mean? So yeah.
I like what you said there, because I feel like a lot of people that are can resonate with the fact that they are hard on themselves, they are their harshest critics. A lot of people around them, I used to get so much like, not abuse, but I used to get really picked on for being very hard on myself. Does that make sense?
Holy shit.
Not picked on, but it was kind of like an issue for someone else.
Yeah.
If I was being hard on myself, which I never understood, because I was like, this is for me to improve. I don't understand how this is your issue. But as like you grow older, you understand that is their issue for a fucking reason.
100%. I think there's two things that sprung to my mind as you were talking there. I think one, I don't make my criticism of myself someone else's problem. Like I'll come off stage. So I mentioned the person I'm dating at the moment, that was their first time watching me do stand-up, and that definitely played a factor in my nerves. I got off stage. There was a break shortly after. I went downstairs. They came down after me. They were like, "Oh my God, well done. You were great." I was like, and I was like, I'm not going to be like this, but I was like, I just need my pissy 5 minutes to be annoyed at myself and a little bit angry at myself, and then I'll be fine. And then we had a great night after, and it was fantastic. So I try not let that whatever I'm feeling, and not consume people around me, because that's not the case. Now, the other thing that you mentioned, or the other thing that sprung to mind as you were talking there was, oh damn, it's after fucking slipping my mind now. I definitely need more coffee. But
I actually have a cold brew if you want.
Yeah, no, I forgot about the cold brew.
It's okay.
I can't remember now.
No,
anyway,
it's okay.
But anyway, I think my overall point is, it's okay. It's okay to be harsh on yourself once you have a grip on it. Once you don't let yourself spiral, I think it's fine, because and this is something I loved about MMA and boxing as well. I played team sports my whole life, and then I found this. The only person I need to beat on a day-to-day basis is myself. Absolutely. And I'm okay with that, because I have high standards, and I expect high standards of myself, and that's fine, because I'm not pushing that bullshit on other people. So I wake up, and my competition today is myself. I got to do better than the last gig. I got to do better than the last day at work. I got to do better than the last launch project. And it doesn't consume me the way it used to anymore. So I think I found like a healthy enough balance now where I'm like...
When did you figure that balance out?
It's taken a long time.
Has it?
Yeah, it's taken a long time. It's taken a couple of breakdowns. It's taken... I think sometimes you need to almost lose control to realize how bad things have gotten, or how not to handle stuff.
Yeah.
You know, work stress was like a huge thing for me throughout my career, and I think that was part of the reason I needed to find something that wasn't work anymore. So I think definitely when I started in my current job, that's absolutely helped. Something about the pandemic has changed me, and I can't quite put my finger on what.
In a positive way?
In a positive way.
Yeah.
I used to be like a caged animal before I'd go on stage. I used to let work stress consume me so much. Now, I'm so much more chilled out about everything. About everything. And I don't know how or why this happened, because you would think, right, say with comedy, I hadn't been on stage in a year. Say there was a year gap where we weren't on stage, we were just doing Zoom gigs, and then all of a sudden I was back, and it was like I was so grateful for it, that the nerves are still there to a degree, but the tension is not there anymore, because I'm like, yeah, I get to do my favourite thing in the whole fucking world.
I feel like it's an element of not taking things for granted anymore, probably. 100%. Like it's a gratitude, like a deep down gratitude kind of thing, where it's like, I am not going to slow myself down. I think that's the one thing that I got out of the pandemic. Like pre-pandy Debbie versus post is I am a little bit more ruthless when it comes to creative projects and all that kind of stuff. Also, I went into it at the age of 22, and now I'm 25. So there's that element.
Holy fuck, yeah.
I know. Like my early 20s, a lot of people that are listening to this probably can resonate with that.
Yeah.
They got into it in their early 20s, and they're now in their mid 20s. Very different.
Oh, you're a different person.
Like
100%.
a completely different person, to the point where the other day I was like, I'm not saying I'm not a young adult anymore, but there's a seriousness that comes with 25 versus 22.
Absolutely.
And it caught up with me, because at first I was always very, very hard on myself and very impatient. Hence me leaving Malta at 21 and getting everything over with. I was very impatient. And then when that pandemic hit, I was like, fuck.
I know.
And at first I was very resentful.
Yeah.
Very resentful.
Of course you were, yeah.
Because I was like, this shit got like taken away from me. I think especially lockdown 2 and lockdown 3.
Yeah. I
was really, not even heartless, but I was very done.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
I even any government decisions and all this, I was like, you are slowing me down here.
100%.
I was so angry.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Like,
I totally resonate with that, absolutely. And I think like Well, okay, so first of all, what you said about the like going from 22 to 25, yeah, you are a different person.
Yeah,
and actually,
I'm a woman.
now that you say it, maybe turning 30 over the pandemic was definitely a factor
Probably.
of that. You know, probably. And there's a great quote that I love that I found in like my early to mid 20s. I think it was from the former CEO of Yahoo, or COO. I can't remember her name now, which is terrible. But the quote is, I spent all of my 20s fighting to just keep my head above water. And then when I hit my 30s, I realised the water was only 3 foot deep. So I stood up. And
Whew.
there you go.
Oh my God.
And that's exactly how I feel. I'm like, there's just something in you that as you get a bit older, and I'm not saying 30 is the cutoff or anything like that, you know, because like, you know, everyone has a different life experience, but yeah, that for me was like, I feel that difference, and I can't, don't get me wrong, I get stressed out about things still, of course I do, I'm a human, but
nature as well, like,
exactly, but it's very much pick your battles now, you know what I mean?
You don't have time for this. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. I can't be arsed.
100%. And
we were chatting before this on just social media and like people being like really strung up and all that kind of thing. And sometimes when people say go get a hobby, it as rude as it sounds, it's kind of like figure your thing out to the point where you're not arsed. You can't be arsed about what the fuck is happening like in someone else's life and all that.
Yeah.
And it's really strange, right? Because as I started this podcast, obviously the people that I'm bringing on and that I'm now surrounding myself with and by whatever are very ambitious, which is helping me out a lot. And that's something that I've always like wanted. Yeah. You know, and I'm not saying I was the ambitious one in the circle. That's not far from the case. But Jesus Christ. Oh my God. We're never doing this at my place again. Cat just threw up. Anyways, I'm surrounding myself with like mass people and it's amazing. And I'm not threatened by it anymore. And before, a lot of people used to be threatened by anything that anyone wanted to do. Yeah. And I think a lot of Irish people resonate with that, like notions. Malta, 100%. We don't have a word for it, but it is very like crabs in a bucket mentality sort of thing. You know?
Love that. Yeah.
So where the fuck was I going with this? But
ambition. And you're surrounded by more ambitious people now, and
ambitious people, and now you can only learn from others.
Yeah.
And it doesn't affect you anymore.
100%.
You know, and also like sometimes when you see other people succeeding, before it was like, oh fuck, you know, like I should be doing this. Like I used to really attack myself. Yeah. But now it's like, oh, they got to 10K.
Absolutely.
On TikTok. What have they been doing?
Yeah.
And rather than looking at their content and like not even hate watching, I've never hate watched. I'm now looking at the dates. How often are they posting?
Yeah, of course.
Like your like brain starts to function very 100%. Differently, where you're like you're taking note of these people. Yeah. To help you out.
100%. I think like. Yeah, like when I look at, and it's so funny because I spent like many years of my career kind of being a social media specialist, right? So, and when it came to comedy, and there are some comics out there, particularly in like Irish comics, nail it. UK comics as well, they're great for it, but like, you know, that kind of sketch comedy or like TikToks and stuff like that. Yeah. And I have friends that are blowing up on TikTok right now. And like that, had this been 10 years ago, I'd have been looking at them going, what the fuck are they doing that I can't do? Like, I mean, you know, I'm better stand-up than them or whatever. And now, like, that is absolutely not the case. There is, I think, once you learn to take the ego out of initial base reactions, and this is what me and my best friend Chris, we talk about this a lot, is like, what is your baseline reaction to that statement, or what is their baseline reaction to that statement? So I'll give you an example. We were talking about someone, and I was saying, I think he really has a problem with dating in general. I think it's just like a sore area for him. And he basically said, do you remember that girl in London, Sarah Everard, that was killed by the police officer or whatever? And he had been texting a girl on Tinder, my friend, and then she stopped. They had made plans to meet up that weekend. Then she had stopped texting him. And his baseline reaction was, I hope that fucking Sarah Everard thing hasn't been the reason that she stopped talking to me. And I was like, what the fuck? And when I was talking to Chris about it, I was like, whether he checks himself or not after making that statement, that's his baseline reaction. And if someone has a baseline reaction like that, to me, that isn't a good thing. So I think that's something that's shifted in me over the years, is my baseline reaction to things. Take the ego out of it. Like, there is no jealousy. I am genuinely so happy when I see my friends blow up on TikTok, win a comedy competition, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's why comedy didn't come into my life earlier, because I wouldn't have had the right mentality about it that I do now. I think your baseline reaction tells you a lot about who you are or becoming as a person. And that baseline changes as you get older and adjusts and that kind of thing. And I think, yeah, I just think that's a very important measure of how far you're coming as a person or something, if that makes sense. I'm not really sure if that makes sense, but I hope I'm trying to.
It does. It's like a general calmness and like peace that you have with yourself, and constantly like challenging. As in, it's really strange, because before, whenever I used to look at these people and they're like, oh yeah, I'm at peace with myself and all that, but then like, I am my harshest critic. It's like, where the fuck is that balance?
Yeah.
You know? No, but it is so right. Because it's like, I am excited for my friends that blow up on TikTok, yet I am then hard on myself when I did something slightly wrong.
Yeah.
As in, like, even just right now, like with this podcast and shit happening all around.
Yeah.
Like, this is out of my control.
Absolutely.
You know?
But
so
it's fine.
It's fine, exactly. But next time round, I know what's going to what I'm going to change.
Exactly.
That's like the really fun thing about like being a creative, I think.
100% is you reflect.
Yeah.
You learn and you move forward. That's what I always try and do, is reflect, we learn, and we move forward, and we do it better next time, and we do it better next time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, we say, being harsh on ourselves, but it doesn't always feel like that either, I think. And I'm sure maybe you feel the same, because, you know, when I say I'm harsh on myself, 10 years ago, I'd have been harsh on myself to the point where I'd have to go to bed for the evening because I just couldn't, you know, I'd be in such a bad headspace. Now, we reflect, we learn, and we move forward. And that's it. It's just like, what could I have done better? You hear so many comics say, you know, and look, sometimes it's right. We get off stage and like, oh, fucking crowd just didn't, you know, oh, they're very quiet today, or they're very lackluster. And yeah, that can absolutely. I'm not saying that that's not a factor, but there's that old saying, a bad tradesman blames his tools, and that is the case. And so I'm not saying that there haven't been gigs that have gone well for me where the crowd, you know, or like they weren't quiet. Maybe they were quiet, but if you're a good enough comedian, you can change the course of that gig if you have the guile, the material, and the ability to read the room. You should always be able to adjust the course and pull something out of the fire, you know. So I always, my baseline reaction after a gig that didn't go as well as I wanted to is, okay, what could I have done differently? And generally I'll have the answer within 12 hours, you know, once I have a sleep on it and that kind of thing. And then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I know where I went wrong there.
What was the toughest thing that you had to like figure out? You said those three things. So reading the room, material, and
ability through, the guile to
What's
do
that?
it. Like, so what I mean by that is like, so when I started comedy, right, because I'm very practice makes perfect. I'm very, you know, like, or I was very systematic about it, I suppose. And I would have rehearsed, like if I had a gig that day, I'd go through the set 5 times in my head, you know what I mean? And it would have to be perfect. I could not stumble over a word. That's all different now, thankfully. But when you're on stage, in my opinion, you should be brave enough to go, so I was like, some of my material is family based, some of my material is, you know, queer themes and that kind of thing, and I'll go in and I'll have like a set list in my head, right? But if they're not liking the gay shit, right, and I was like, oh, they're not going to appreciate the gay shit, I should be able to turn it. Now sometimes I don't, sometimes I'm like, fuck you guys, you're getting my queer shit anyway, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's just the sassy little bitch in my head sometimes. But yeah, you should be able to go, this isn't really resonating with them. Okay, cool. I'll bang out more of the football jokes, or I'll bang out more of the mum and dad jokes, or, you know, whatever. So I think you have to have the balls or the guile to do that. Reading the room is, I'm good at reading people. I always have been. Now, like, I'm not trying to like blow smoke up my own arse here or anything, but like I can literally sense, and like, other comics are like this too, you can sense a shift in the room, and sometimes you'll be like winning, and you'll say something and it just kind of turns the room and you're like, oh shit, okay, I better, readjust and win them back and that kind of thing. So that only comes with stage time, that you learn that. And I wish I could put into words how it feels, but it literally, I don't know, maybe it's an empath thing. Do you ever know, like when your girlfriend comes in for work, you probably know if she's had a shit day or not straight away.
You can sense it.
Yeah. So it's
I
like
think
that
anyone
times
who's
50.
like quite an observant person, or just like not even introverted, but generally, yeah. You can even just in a bar or a group setting,
100%.
like one person says something that's a little bit too far, snaps at someone, that sort of thing, and you're like,
100%.
Okay.
yeah, 100%. And like I've even noticed in work, my boss, she's amazing, and she is always so calm and composed, and something I really admire about her. But I've noticed when we're on Teams calls, if someone says something that like pisses her off, or someone's behavior isn't what it should be, I know exactly. I know she's annoyed because I know by the way she touches her hair, or she moves forward, or she'll, you know what I mean? So you when that kind of becomes your life, then you start picking up on things like that very quickly. So yeah, reading the room is a huge part of comedy. I'll give you that gig I was saying that I went on Wednesday, that it went grand. It just could have gone better. I think I know where I fucked up. I think I dropped my first punchline, and it was, usually I say, instead of finding a nice man to settle down with, I just became a lesbian. But I was feeling a little bit sassy, obviously, on Wednesday, and I was like, and I just became a big fucking lesbian. And it was not a queer audience, and it was an international mixed crowd as well. Therefore, probably not the room to do that. So I think that kind of made them a little bit like harden up a little bit, or so. I don't really know, but I think that was where I went wrong. That was the first point I went wrong.
It is. I think with queer jokes in general, like, it is very niche. You know what I mean as well, where sometimes they feel bad to laugh. That's something that I wrote down over there, is like the sensitivity to, which you understand with like certain, not even agendas, but like certain movements. You're like,
100%.
Am I allowed to laugh at this?
I have a perfect example of that. So I spent lockdown with my ex in her house and with her family and stuff like that, and she's deaf, and so is her family, and I mean, it was amazing to be around them. I learned an awful lot, and I have a lot of love for them. They're really great people, but so I said to my ex at one point, I was like, listen, I have an idea for a few jokes. Would you be? And she was always like a huge supporter and all that kind of stuff, and she was like, oh my god, yeah. And I ran them by her 100 times. Like, I ran the set 100 times by her, and she was so cool with it, and like, kind of informed me in certain ways or whatever. And then I get up on stage to do it for the first time, and it's in a sold out show in the Workman's, right in the main stage, and I get up on stage and I'm ripping, and like I do the first like minute or so, and then I get to this part, and I said, what was the punch? Or it was like, she is amazing, she's beautiful, she's funny, and she's also the best listener I've ever been with, which really says something about my exes, because she's deaf. And there was like, I felt the tension in the room. I felt, it's like everybody's arseholes just tightened up a little bit, you know what I mean? And Lisa and her friends were there, and they were down the back, and I was like, okay guys, I was like, I'm just gonna be honest with you, I was like, she's down there and she's with her friends who are also deaf. I've ran this set by her a million times, and they have seen it too, so it's like, it's okay to laugh. And then like that, the tension was gone. Really? And I fucking smashed the show. Like, you know what I mean? So it was they needed the permission to laugh, not even just from me, but from them being there. And crowd mentality is fascinating to me, like the psychology of it. But yeah, the tension just dissipated, and the
I would
gig was
not
great.
have thought that would be the ending.
I know.
Like consent to laugh, nearly. But
that's what people need. Like, can you imagine if you brought your parents to a stand-up gig that was like hardcore queer trans thing, you, to a degree, I know I don't know your parents or whatever, but I'm making assumptions here, but there would be a part of them, if we multiplied your parents by 50 and filled a room with them, there'd be a part of them that'd be like, I'm not really sure how to take this. Or, you know, and now my parents are amazing, they're great, but even still they would, I've seen them like tense up a little bit in with certain comics and stuff like that. So people do
Is
need
that
permission.
a good thing though, Sinead, or a bad thing?
I think it's a generational thing. I think it's maybe a good thing. If I take
Really?
if I stand back from the comedy aspect of it, I kind of like that we're all being a little bit more critical about people's work and that kind of thing. I know you're looking at me funny, but
No. I'm trying to take in everything you're saying, but like you're making sense.
thank you.
No. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I think like, you know, that there's this whole like Ricky Gervais shitstorm at the moment. So he has a new his new special is out on Netflix. I actually went to see that gig in the 3 Arena, and he kicks it off with fucking trans jokes, and I'm like, yeah, like.
Yeah, there's
shut
a lot
up.
of comedians that are kind of like pushing that right now and being like, I like stop being so offended.
But like, bro, you're a cis straight white heterosexual male. Like, your take on trans people is not relevant. Like, in my opinion, it's not relevant. Maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's a bit of a fucking elitist thing for me to say or something like that. But like, give me a fresh take. Give me a good take that is informative or well thought out or whatever, and then we'll talk about it. But if you're just going to sit there and make jokes about, oh, women have cocks now, fuck off, mate. Like, you know what I mean? You've won the biggest platforms in the world, and you're choosing to punch down with that platform. I don't think that's right. So I'm glad that audiences in general, people that aren't even trans or in the queer community, are kind of going, hang on, this is dog shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm happy that we as a species are being a little bit more thoughtful about what is and isn't art or funny or whatever. However, in saying that, if I'm coming at it from a comedian point of view, I think comedy plays a very important role in society, and I do want us to be able to push boundaries and challenge. I don't think we need to do that to some of the most marginalized communities in the world. I think, again, we have a thing in comedy is punch up, not down, and punching down is shitting on people basically, and punching up is taking the piss out of the powers that be and that kind of thing. So, or self-deprecating humor as well and that kind of thing. So I think comedy should be used as an opportunity to punch up, and I would avoid punching down at all costs personally, you know. So yeah, so there's an interesting dynamic right now. So sorry, that's a very long answer to your short question.
No. It makes complete sense. I think you probably angered a few people. We can obviously pinpoint which group in society they might be, but yeah, I do get it. I agree with the punching up and not punching down, and also I think it depends on the joke as well.
100%.
Because if I'm trying to remember like the Dave Chappelle thing and what happened.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know the like exact stuff about it and whatnot, but if I'm not mistaken, like from the back end, he was actually helping this one trans woman and all that. I like to base people on how they treat people. Now, the one issue that I have with public figures that are making these kind of jokes, as nice as they might be, is that I believe that you are a nice person and you're helping someone out like from like behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, there is quite a lot of people that take example and think it's okay to make said jokes or approach said group in that same manner. And that's where the shit starts to like take off.
Yeah.
Because I don't know the solution to that, because unfortunately you are not responsible for people's reactions and their actions, right? So I get it. But there does come a responsibility with freedom of speech and what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that sensitivity. If that means, I think I'm going to take an example of your experience with like the deaf jokes is explaining in that moment in time of being like, I like ran this joke, like
Yeah.
they're over there at the back, you
Yeah.
have their consent to laugh, they relaxed, fine. You know, maybe that transparency of being like, look, it's a dickish joke, but like it's just for the crack.
And also,
you know,
just to say as well, sorry about that set, I incorporated a lot of sign language into that set, and that was my way of kind of, so it was talking about interable relationships and that kind of thing, and like the fuck ups I make with interpreting sign language because she signs so fast, and I, you know, so sorry, yeah, just to be clear, I wasn't shitting on the deaf community.
No.
And,
But like, who does it really well? Andrew Schultz, I think.
Okay. Schultz. Yeah. I love Andrew
with
Schultz.
With the crowd work and all that,
Yeah.
where there's this massive viral clip of him with what are they called again? Oh, damn it. Sick.
Yes.
That was part of his crowd work. There was one man like that.
Cool.
But then he just started spitting facts about the community, and he's like, oh, that's why they're so good and all that. So you are making jokes, but you're also like, look, I know what you go through. Like, I am educated on this.
Yes.
And that is where a lot of comedians unfortunately lack. The jokes might be funny.
Yeah.
They could be hilarious.
Yeah.
Where is your education?
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
And I think with Dave Chappelle, I watched it, and I am not trans, so I can't relate.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't affect me personally as like a queer person, because I knew, like, he was talking about how much he helped the person, like behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So like, okay, like you're giving as much of context as you could.
Yeah.
I don't watch Ricky Gervais's yet.
No, it's like, and I mean, like, I enjoy.
I think a lot of men his age are just getting really pissed off right now. You know,
it's because I think they don't understand, and that is it. And the thing is about Ricky Gervais, and I'm not going to lie to you, like, I love The Office, I love Afterlife. I have loved a lot of Ricky's work.
He's a very good
100%.
man.
Oh, yeah. I would never. That's why I happily skipped to the Three Arenas to see him.
Yeah, you paid for his work.
100%. When my friend got tickets, I was like, yeah, definitely. But then what I'm trying to say about I suppose Ricky's what's called Supernature, if you were going to do it, I think you touched on this a while ago, it better be fucking funny, and it better be well informed and that kind of thing, because it is as tired. He made such tired jokes to the point where it's kind of like, you know, the way they say, like they might make joke about, black guy might be hung like a horse or whatever. Like, and now that's considered, like, that is considered a racist thing to hold on to, but it's also a very tired take. It's bullshit. That is exactly what he did with those jokes. So I'm like, if you are going to bring something to the table, like, Ricky Gervais is a fucking good comedian. Like,
he's a great writer too. Like,
he's
he
incredible.
Can do better.
So you could have done so much better with that. Like, I'm disappointed. I really hoped you had a fresh take on this or something, but actually you're just being a transphobic asshole right now, to be honest with you, you know.
Interesting.
So I just think if you're gonna bring the world is his oyster. He can talk about anything he wants. Why did we have to pick that? Why? I don't understand. Also, I think you touched on this as well. I'm not trans, you're not trans. So if my friends who are trans are hurt by something that someone has said, I actually don't really care whether I didn't think it was that transphobic, because I don't care, because it's hurting people, and I'm kind of not, as much as I will defend comedy and defend a comedian's right to make jokes about things that are a little bit sweaty.
Look, sometimes you think it's a good one and then it's actually not as well. So like, you have to you don't
get to wade in and make people feel like shit. You know what I mean? Like, that shouldn't be your role here. I don't think so. But maybe I'm being too purist, or maybe I'm contradicting myself. I'm not really sure. But I'm really trying to figure out this at the moment. You know?
That's like quite an internal battle with me right now as well, where I kind of am struggling to figure out where the balance is, because I do think that there's quite a few things. I don't want to use the term snowflake, but there is quite a high level of people being offended for
the sake of being offended.
For the sake of being offended.
Absolutely.
And everything. Where is that line drawn?
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's like what I'm trying to figure out. And I
Yeah.
can only imagine what you have to go through as well as a comedian of, listen, I want to touch on this. It's
Yeah.
quite funny, haha, you know?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think it's lighthearted. The only, not unfortunately, the people that can do it right are the comedians.
100%.
You know?
And like context is everything.
Yeah.
And a very important part of the context is who is on stage telling the joke right now. Like, is it someone who is part of the queer community, or is it like, that's a very important context to take into, or like African American comedians talking about the black experience in America. Like, it wouldn't be sensible for me to get up there and talk about that.
But like,
That's
you
not my
laugh at
truth.
it when Kevin Hart is talking about it.
100%. Because he's the one making the joke. Because, you know, I don't know.
Like, he's giving you consent to laugh at it because of that.
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Because I came across a TikTok video of, weirdly enough, a deaf comedian making jokes about being deaf.
Yeah.
Or like cerebral palsy as well.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. I think context and who is telling the joke is a very important one. So for the likes of me and you, where we're trying to draw a line in the sand and go, okay, what is allowable, what is not allowable? It's actually very difficult to draw that line, I think, because depending on who is telling the joke, that line changes. I'll give you another example. A friend of mine, his son was recently diagnosed with autism. His son's only like 4, and he got up on stage and he's writing a show now about he has a beautiful relationship with his son. Like, they just worship each other and they are best buds. And I stay with my friend a lot and I just love their relationship. So he's writing a show at the moment about his relationship with his son and all the funny things that are happening now, as you know, and all that kind of stuff. And so he got up and I wasn't at the gig, but he was telling me about it after, and this woman approached him. He'd done like, say, 10 minutes of the material or whatever. This woman approached him after and was like, I don't think it's appropriate that you're making jokes about your autistic son and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, hang on a second. He was like, if I was up here making jokes about autistic people, full stop, he was like, yeah, 100%, absolutely, then, you know, call me out in it. But I'm not. I'm talking about my relationship with my son who is autistic and the shade of colour that puts on our relationship and all this kind of thing and whatever. And I think that's a very important debate to have, because I understand that woman was coming from a good place where she's like, you can't joke about, you know, neurodivergent people. You can't joke about it at all. And it's like, oh, hang on. This is his lived experience. This is his truth right now. So yeah, he is allowed. So, you know, me saying, you're not allowed to make jokes about trans people. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's like, if the person up there, if that is their lived experience, of course they're allowed to talk about it. I don't believe people outside of a community shitting on people in a community, particularly a marginalised community. I just don't think it's not something I think is a good thing.
I think probably the takeaway from that would be obviously context, as you said, but also probably there's a little bit of responsibility with the person saying that joke or putting that content out there in giving a little bit of yourself, putting yourself into the mix, that vulnerability. Because I see a lot of people going, or like comments, you're not allowed to say this, you're not neurodivergent, for example.
Yeah.
Then they come up being like, listen, no, I am.
Yeah.
Don't talk out of your ass, blah, blah, blah. And then the argument starts.
Yeah.
Versus if you started off that piece of content saying, I am this.
Yeah.
Here's the punchline.
Yeah.
You kind of stop those people in their tracks. Will they comment? Probably, yeah. Like if they are determined to be like that, they will be like that. But then you give them no grounds to stand on.
Yeah.
That's the competitive side of me as well.
Yeah, that's it though, right? That's it.
I am quite like look at all the options possible and see how the fuck I'm going to chop each and every one of them.
100%
You know,
with you on that.
like,
Yeah. 100%.
So obviously your content, your like jokes or whatever, like your material is about like you being queer and all that. Now, I did watch a few of your gigs.
Oh, thank you.
I did. Thank you.
I'm better than what you would have seen. I promise. I'm better now.
We'll see about that. Go. So why did the chicken crust go?
Yeah, exactly. Knock, knock.
So you spoke about, so you have a brother and a sister, right?
Yeah.
And you said that your parents were quite like centered on your brother for a bit, and then that what do you call it? Which I think is just like a family of the 90s, and that's a
100%.
certain,
Yeah.
especially if one of the daughters does turn out to be gay, that it's just like, oh, to the side. What was your process like? So let's go back to you being like 15, for example.
Yeah.
You're probably a little bit jealous of your brother getting all of this attention.
So I'm going to be honest with you, right? My family are my core. I love them so much, my everything. Like, a lot of that is very, very exaggerated, right? Because I'm the oldest, right? So
same, yeah.
Okay. So I've had a couple of conversations with people recently who are also the oldest, and there's very similar dynamics in every family, I think.
I would not want to be the eldest.
Really?
I wouldn't want to be the eldest.
Okay.
I think if I were to come back, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
If I were to have things done all over again, there would be a lot of things that I wouldn't want in my life.
I completely get that. Let me ask you this question. In relationships, are you the minder or are you the mindee? Do you know what I mean? So I suppose, like, what are you like in relationships? Like, are you the person who's always taking care of their partner, or are you more standoffish? Like, I think
I'm probably like, if I were to get like a collective response, it would be the mature one.
Okay.
So
let's send out that survey.
Yeah, we'll send out that survey.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the very hard to argue with because I'm very like,
Yeah, you seem like a very steady person. Like, your energy is quite...
I wasn't
steady.
allowed to spiral.
Yeah.
So talk about fucking being the eldest. There you go.
Honestly.
I wasn't allowed to have tantrums, so that means that I can't have tantrums.
I get that. So like, my parents were definitely more strict on me in ways than they were on. So then there's Niamh, who's 3 years younger than me, and then there's Sean, who is 7 years younger than me. Hilariously, and I love that you've picked up on this, you know, in terms of, I exaggerate that dynamic, right? 100%. I am not saying so the reality of the situation is Sean is the baby, and like every baby in the family, they fall at his feet. There is genuinely no resentment there for me, because I'm exactly the same. Like, me and my sister will be like, you know, like my mom be like, he's unbelievable, he didn't empty the dishwasher again, and we're like, he's awful, oh my god, he's the worst. And then he comes in and we're like, hey, do you want anything? What you want? I'm going to the chipper, do you want? So, you know what I mean? So like, me and Niamh are as bad for spoiling him rotten. Well, it's not spoiling him rotten, but, you know, like, catering to his every whim. Or like, he'll text Niamh drives, and I don't. He'll text Niamh and he's like, any chance of a lift? And she's like, from where? And he's like, town.
The audacity of the younger siblings. I'll be honest with you,
it's unbelievable.
Now, I have a friend that said that she would not want to be the youngest.
Yeah.
Because she felt like whatever she did hurt her parents the most, because it is the baby of the family.
True.
And I think, like, I do empathize with that. Like, you are like stuck with the guilt of, like, I left. I was like, enjoy. You know what I mean?
Peace.
Yeah. I did, and now it's your turn.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. I moved out of home when I was 18. I was super young, like for someone from Dublin, right? My mom was like in bits over it. Like, Sean went to Vancouver for a summer a couple of years ago, and now he's actually, I think it's next week, going to New York for the summer with his girlfriend this year. And I know my ma's a bit cut up about it again, like, do you know what I mean? But I think, like, he, as much as he will drive them mad in so many ways, Sean had COVID over Christmas. And when I say we sat there on Christmas Day, and Debbie, I know this is so dramatic, we were gutted he wasn't there. Like, he was just upstairs in his room, but like, it was like he had passed away, or so, you know, something really dramatic like that. I don't know. But there's a lot of love in my family, and I'm so, you know, I'm so grateful for it.
That's lovely.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. And it's also, you know, being the oldest has let me, I definitely think I'm more independent in a lot of ways than the other two. And I'm grateful for that. I've had to learn how to balance it a little bit. It's come up in I really struggle asking for help, or I did anyway. I used to struggle like for asking for help a lot. Like, I'd be the stubborn arsehole if I was trying to move that TV in the unit. I'm like, oh, I'll do it. And, you know, you'd be like, oh, let me give you a hand. I'm like, no, it's fine. Just you go do whatever. So there was always that element of my personality, which I'm actively trying to work against now and that kind of thing. So that's better. But, yeah, so there was no real resentment in my house, I guess, growing up. But it's very funny because my brother and sister are beautiful. They're so like the two of them could be models, and so I always say, so they got the good looks and I got 500 points in the leaving cert, you know what I mean? Like, that's the difference.
You're lovely. I'll say that.
Thank you, you're lovely too.
Yeah, something I'm working on is our words of affirmation, by the way, like, because I don't I don't compliment people enough.
Okay. And have you got a daily affirmation for yourself, or are you trying to be kinder to yourself? Okay, let's work on that.
No, it's like one step at a time, man.
Yeah, of course.
I'm only 25.
Yeah, exactly. You've got your whole life ahead of you. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I have friends who journal a lot. I don't necessarily journal. That was gross. Sorry, everyone. I just burped in the mic, but whatever. Yeah, so I don't necessarily journal my feelings an awful lot, but what I will do is,
you're a comedian as well, like.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, right? When I am journaling, I'm working, I'm writing, I'm building towards something. So I try and save my energy for that. You know what I mean? Like my mental
get your trauma and dump it onto other people.
Exactly. What I do instead is I make a point of going for walks an awful lot, or I'll do things in silence, and that's kind of where I will have that time to myself. Or it could be late at night after a gig and I haven't eaten since lunch, so I'll just make myself something quick before I go to bed. And it's in those moments, those quiet moments, that I'm like, I will say things to myself like, I am so grateful that I get to go and do this every day, and I'm so grateful that comedy helps me be better at work and work helps me be better at comedy, and I'm so glad that I can balance that. I'm so grateful for the people in my life. I'm so grateful to be here right now, you know what I mean? Like, I've been so stoked for this since you messaged me, and I'm like, how cool is it that someone that I think is so cool, that now, because of what we both do, now we get to sit here and have a conversation. Like,
I know.
Thank you, universe. I'm so grateful for today. You know?
For sure. And that's just like the benefit and like the reward you get for putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
Like, the opportunities that are coming my way are not like the general, like, you get a sponsor, that whole thing. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, well done on the podcast, cool. What about, like, are you making anything off of it? I'm like, I can't be arsed. No. Like, I have not approached one person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no, this is my art, this is me. If it gets big, amazing. If it doesn't, look at all these conversations. This is my diary. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
you've got a record of it. Like, this is absolutely my 10 minutes, my half hour, my 40-minute show. That's
like, me putting myself out there.
100%.
You know?
100%. And I didn't mention this to you earlier because I wanted to kind of say, but like, the first time I saw you on TikTok, I can't even remember what video it was, but I remember I wasn't feeling great that day, and I was just, as we do, lying in bed scrolling through TikTok. I actually really limit my time on TikTok. I try and keep to like once or twice a week because I'm pretty strict on myself. So yeah, because I just lose hours to it. But I remember I was lying in bed, I was scrolling, I came to one of your videos. I'd never heard of you before. I'd never seen you before. And I can't remember what it was, but I remember the quote that the person was saying. And I kind of got halfway through it. And because, like, big fucking, you know, with an AD, whatever. So I was just like, oh, whatever. And scroll past. And then I went, no, actually, I want to watch the rest of that. And I went back. And then I followed you after that. And then whatever. And with your content, your material, it's like it always lands itself on my feed right when I need it. And
really?
And that's why, like, I'm so, like, I don't think you know that, obviously you didn't know that had happened, but I'm sure you're doing that for more than just me. And I think, like, I'm grateful that you've started a podcast, and I know this is only our first time meeting, but I'm so grateful you started podcasting, because in that moment that made a difference to my day or my week, you know. So
thank you.
No, thank you.
I really appreciate it. Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because this is not a mental health podcast. Yeah. But obviously it's the mental health stuff that is helping people. Yeah. And I think, like, what's important to me is normalizing it in a more normal way, because there is quite an effort on normalizing it, but it's still very extreme. 100%. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think it's just like casually just bringing it up there. You know, just like,
I think what I love about your podcast is you've such a diverse mix of people. So one day it's a high performance coach, and the next day it's
like
the guy who's working with Gary Vee. You know what I mean? Like,
like it's D-Rock, you know. And then there's Mary Holgrain, like overcoming addiction. Oh my god, that podcast.
That was a powerful episode. That was a powerful episode.
There are quite a few episodes that like I'm holding back tears every time, to the point where you're just like, you're alive. Yeah. You know, like you're alive, you're right in front of me. How the fuck, like, whoa.
It's crazy.
That's also another aspect on how my mindset has changed. Yeah. I can't complain. Like with these people, I got Andy Quinn on 28th with a stroke.
Wow.
As in, I can't. I cannot. I will be foolish, you know?
Can I say, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but please do not devalue or take weight away from the shit that you go through, because I would have been like you in that sense for a long time, where I'm like, I ain't got shit to complain about. But then actually what was happening was I was internalising and bottling up and blah, blah, blah. And I was almost proud of the fact that I hadn't cried in like a year and a half, or, you know, like, in just stupid shit like that all of a sudden came, that plus trauma plus childhood issues and all that kind of shit just came to a fucking horrible head, and I didn't want to be here anymore. And I think it's important to recognise that what I'm going through isn't the worst thing in the world, but context is important.
That's what it always goes back to.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
That, and just like letting, I think that's another, Mary taught me that without probably her knowing. It's just accepting it, like with her, not even upbringing, but just like her circumstances and all that. I was like, how are you not resentful? Yeah. She's like, what the fuck is that going to do for me? You know what I mean? 100%. And that's like what we're going to get into with like being queer and all that. Yeah. I was so fucking angry.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
I was so, like, if we were going to talk about, that's what I was going to say, where we're circling back. Till this day, sometimes, if I were to come back in a new life, I would not want, I don't want to be queer. Like, I'm not saying I don't want to. Yeah. But I wouldn't wish this on people.
I could not agree. Now, only in the last 6 years has that changed for me, but literally up until like my mid-20s, I was always like, if I had a choice, I would not be queer. Now it's different for me. Now I'm so I'm on a bit of a journey myself at the moment. Okay, so we're getting into it here. My sexuality was because I was quite young when I realised what was going on. I think, I don't mean to be cliche, I think I always knew something was different, but when I start consciously recognising that something was going on, I was only like 13 or 14. And thank God, like, we're a computer household, because I had access to Google and I could Google or I came across things on the internet and stuff like that, and I think I'd have lost my fucking mind if I didn't have that. Like, I don't know what I would have done, because I wouldn't have been able, I need to, when I am nervous about something, pandemic or war in Ukraine is a perfect example, I read everything I possibly can about it. I need to know as much as I possibly can, and then I'll rationalise how afraid I can be. I was kind of like that when I was a teenager. There was a girl in school that I was just, oh my God, I was so obsessed with. And yeah, so I start realising, but like, I wasn't ready to accept that part, to even understand what was going on, because the word lesbian to me was just an insult that like the girls in school threw at each other every time.
I was throwing it. I wasn't throwing it to others. Yeah. But I would say, like, if I'm wearing like a tracksuit, like an ugly tracksuit from like my sports thing, I'd be grumpy. Yeah. Because
I look like a fucking lesbian.
I look like a fucking lesbian.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the hardest things. Yeah. That and the reason why I disconnected with so many friends of mine that I'm so proud, like, have stuck around and like came back. I couldn't look them dead in the eye because I was so embarrassed of the shit I was saying to myself. Yeah. And I didn't even know it at the time. We're going to talk about like representation and all that. Yeah. I thought that we had no exposure. I thought that lesbians just had short hair and looked like dudes. Yeah. And the relationships they were in would have been like straight girls that like
man, woman.
Accepted, you know? Yeah. It was only like Rose and Rosie on like YouTube where I was like, oh my God, 2 girls with long hair.
Right.
long hair.
Yeah.
And that's where it was the long hair that changed for me. I don't like, it's so strange.
Yeah.
When then I was like, oh shit. Oh
Yeah.
shit. And that's like the whole journey that I was on.
100%. And like, that's amazing. It's funny you said about the long hair thing being a thing. So I had a cousin of mine who passed away in 2013, and he was one of my best friends in the world. And after that I went into a weird thing. So I was like, I didn't recognize it at the time, but like depression, anxiety were really coming into my life at that point. And I went through about a 2-week period where honestly I could barely get out of bed because I was so afraid of everyone around me dying. I was constantly thinking of things like, what am I going to do when my mom dies? What am I going to do when my dad dies? What about when my best friend dies? What
You're
about
paralyzed.
I couldn't, there was days I couldn't breathe. I could not get out of the bed. And then I don't know why I didn't fucking think of this sooner, but I Googled what I was feeling, and I found this forum of people that so what's it called, health anxiety I think is what it's called, and there's just this like forum of people being like, why do I feel like this? And other people going, this is a really natural part of grief, it will pass, everyone feels like this, blah blah blah. And it was that moment for me where I was like, oh, other people feel like this and I'm not crazy. That changed everything for me, and that helped me get back onto a road of normality. Now it took a while, but you know, but like that, it was that light bulb moment for me, as I'm sure you felt on YouTube as well, where you're like, oh, 2 girls with long hair can also be queer, and
you know,
that's okay.
I was like, oh, okay, so maybe it is that.
Yeah.
It's so, the human experience is so strange because we feel everything exclusively like ourselves, and it's as if we kind of forget in those moments to look outwards of us, you know? But then it's really strange because when it comes to self-belief, we're very lacking.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're looking outwards for entertainment. We're looking outwards for validation.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to really important stuff of, is what I'm feeling okay? Then fuck no, we're not gonna like look at that.
No,
it's so strange.
It is. It's so strange. It really is. And like I didn't think I'd be talking about this in the podcast, but like I said, I am on a journey myself at the moment in terms of like gender and gender identity and expression and that kind of thing. And you know, I suppose the whole non-binary thing has been kind of rolling around in my head for a while. And I went through a journey during a lockdown where I was like, am I trans? And then I was like, no, I'm not trans, because, well, like as in terms of like, you know, female to male. I was like, you know, I think everyone questioned everything during the pandemic, to be fair. So yeah, I went in that, and then I was like, oh, the non-binary, like, am I non-binary? Is that what I am? But like where I'm at with that at the moment is like, I love being a woman. I feel like a woman, but I feel like society's definition of what femininity is does not apply to me. So when I walk into a bathroom and someone says, excuse me, this is the ladies, and I'm like, yeah, I know,
to see
like,
my boobs?
yeah, honestly, and that has been my reaction, where I grab my boobs and shake them sometimes, but I'm not proud of it, but it is. But yeah, and then I was talking to my best mate James about this, and I said to him, it's kind of like where I'm at the moment. Like, I love going between the female and the male, and I think I do have a nice balance of both, but it's almost like I don't want to give society the win by coming out and saying I'm non-binary, but I don't know. So that's what I mean. I'm on a journey right now, and I don't really know where I'm at with that, but
that's something really important. Like, you articulated that perfectly in a way that I wouldn't have thought of, but I've been constantly thinking of, where this is not a hot take, but I do think that there's a lot of queer women right now that are questioning their gender more than men or gay men. Mm-hmm. And I think it just comes down, butch lesbians are kind of dying out and more non-binary people are coming through. And if that's you, amazing, then that's you, you know? Yeah. But then there's also the process where like you could just be like a woman that likes to identify like you have certain features, and that's what I find, again, the human experience. Yeah. Like, you were assigned this at birth, you were assigned that. Yeah. Of course, being trans is a completely different narrative. Yeah. But it's okay to be a woman wearing a suit. It's fucking cool.
Absolutely.
And that's the interesting thing, where it comes to not even like representation and all that, but obviously everyone is fussing over Harry Styles when he wore that dress, right? And I think there's something to take away from it that not that many people did, in my opinion anyways, which is he's wearing a dress, but he did not come out.
No.
And that's where people are like, they forgot to let go of that point where it's like, you could be wearing a dress and you don't need, not even to question, you don't need to come out.
Yeah.
You're just wearing this. And I feel like a lot of women, because we are meant to fucking self-doubt and we are questioned in every move we make, that unfortunately then when it comes down to, do I wear a tux for my wedding or a wedding dress? Am I non-binary or not?
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah. I
That's
agree
where
with
it
everything
comes
you
from.
said. Yeah.
If you're non-binary, then fine. But I don't want women to just be questioning themselves over fucking everything.
And that's the thing. And especially when we were younger, right?
Yeah.
Like a butch lesbian was like the worst kind of thing you could be.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fucking so stupid, because I love everything about butch women. I love everything about mask presenting non-binary people. I fucking adore their short hair and their gentle souls and their lovely warm hands, and like and it's just, again, it's society telling us that because these women or because these people don't fit the classic femininity thing, that they are wrong and that's not what you should be aiming for. You know what I mean? Actually, do you know what? Like, and I bought into that. I subscribed to that school of thought. Like, if someone said, "Oh, are you butch?" I'd nearly be offended when I was in my early 20s. And then someone described me as a soft butch once. I was like, yeah, okay, maybe that's it. But like a soft butch.
Yeah.
But like, irregardless, I love who I am, and I love my community, and I love all of that. I don't want other people to define how I identify my gender. So again, I am on a journey because I am.
No, because you're on it though.
Yeah,
like,
but I'm in the grey, and that's okay.
Yeah,
and I'm happy here,
exactly.
actually, you know. But since I have given myself, over the last couple of years, more permission to be okay with the fact that I am more mask presenting, since I have done that, I have, out of nowhere nearly, all of a sudden become a little bit more comfortable with the feminine as well. So I lean into both now.
Interesting.
And yeah. So it's fun. I'm enjoying it a little bit, which is a weird way to explain. I'm enjoying my gender a bit more, you know, but I'm enjoying fucking around with it a bit more, you know, and that kind of thing. So
do you, now this is something like I don't have a take on, but probably it could be just one of those things where someone's listening to this and going, oh, I didn't know Debbie's gay.
Yeah.
Because I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And the reason why I don't talk about it is because I don't think I am the person to talk about it.
100%.
And because I have so many issues with it. But it's also just because I want to be more than that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that probably it definitely goes back to the struggle with coming out for some people, that then they end up owning it to a point that it's all about that. I will not watch this because it's too straight.
Yeah. And like, look, I find people who have come out later in life are more steadfast or more like resolute in that kind of mentality, but I get it. I actually
were you like that for a bit?
Yeah. Like, I came out when I was like a teenager, right? I was pretty young, so, you know, and again, it was a very different time. It was 16 years ago, and Ireland was a very different place. So I was very determined that being gay was not going to be the defining thing about me. But I have met people who, it was described to me recently as going through a second puberty, like in your 20s, where it's like all of a sudden you've been in a dark room and you've been flailing so much, and then all of a sudden all these lights come on and everything makes sense and blah blah blah. And when the person put that to me, I was like, that is so interesting. And then they were like, so that's why, you know, I'm almost, again, militant is the wrong word here, but, you know, like, they're so steadfast, resolute, really in the queer community, really ingrained in it, really, like, it is so part of their life. And actually, I think that's kind of beautiful, because it took me so long, and I know you'll relate to this, it took me so long to be okay with that part of myself. that watching other people celebrate, it brings me nothing but joy in my heart for them and for our community in general, because I'm like, yeah, fucking welcome to the team. We have t-shirts, you know. Yeah, so I do think it's kind of beautiful. But equally, I would be with you where for a long time I was like, this can't be my defining characteristic. Like
what were you scared about maybe in that moment?
I was just a scared little girl. I was in an all-girls school, a Catholic all-girls school, where, like I said, the word lesbian was thrown around as an insult, which, I was the same as you, whereas, oh, you fucking dyker, whatever. And it was never meant in the way of, oh, you clearly like other women. But like you said,
it was never meant for that.
No. That was actually the last thing it meant to be honest with
like
you.
when you said like that's gay, it wasn't that likes boys. It's probably just like that's twinky.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
that's very
exactly.
girly.
Bit fruity or whatever. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Carry on.
And I was scared. So I was scared about what my friends would react like. I really didn't know what my parents were going to react like. Now I know my parents as people now, and I know if I hadn't known back then what it was, or how they would have reacted, then it would have been fine. But yeah, rejection. I was scared of rejection. I was scared of like letting people down. I was scared of like I was pretty like I wasn't the high performer in school, but I was pretty high performing. Like, and I always fear, even to this day, I will always fear failure, and I will fear letting people down. I can't deal with letting people down. Well, as in I've a healthier relationship with it now, but at the time, and I was like all these thoughts and ideas that my parents would have had for me, I'm sure, like whatever, about being married and making them grandparents and all that kind of stuff. I felt like I would have been taking all that away from them, and I just I don't know. I was just scared, full stop. And I was so mad about your one that I was in school with as well. And I was angry that she wasn't gay, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever, even though there was times where, listen, we won't say much, but there was like little moments or whatever. But that when I look back on now, I'm like, I hope she had a word with herself at one point or another. But so like there was just a lot going on, and I just didn't understand it. I had no frame of reference. And then my friend Sarah, it was, I think, might have been the first person I said the words, yeah, I'm gay too. She came out to me and I came out to her, and we were just kicking typically a football back and forth to each other. And
very lesbian.
Yeah, like we played in a football team together, and the rest of the team were boys, so like we couldn't have been more stereotypical. But she's still one of my best friends to this day, but yeah, I'm so grateful for her that she was in my life then, because then she gave me the L Word box sets and was like, okay buddy, go watch that. And I was like, okay, thanks.
Sweet.
So it that was the journey. That was how the journey started. And telling my parents, telling my mom was a big thing. And I started going out with a girl in my year and all that kind of stuff.
How old were you at that time?
I was, when I got my first girlfriend, I was 15. So this would have started. Young. Yeah, and that's what I mean. And that was 2-3 years of torturing myself before I ever.
How did your parents take it?
I have a whole bit about it.
Do you?
Yeah, I have a whole bit about it. But great,
the VIP experience.
Yeah, exactly. Front row tickets.
Let's go.
Yeah, I told my mom, and I told my mom I was bi, because we've bi now, gay later, right? But they she was like essentially like, well, I knew you weren't going to tell me you were pregnant anyway, but like I think everyone just assumed I was a tomboy. Like my mom was a bit of a tomboy when she was a kid as well, right? Like and stuff like that. So yeah, I was kind of sporty and always hanging out with guys and all that kind of stuff. So I think she just thought it was that or a phase or whatever. And she was great to me. I know she's told me since that she was quite upset at times, and she rang like her two sisters, my aunties, one of whom lives in San Francisco, the other who lives in London. So they were like,
the exposure.
Great. Yeah, they were like, we are delighted. They're like my big sisters as well, to be fair. So they were fucking buzzing. And then
it really helps when parents actually look for assistance in other places. Hugely. I think that's a lot of like problems that maybe a good few parents might have, is they keep it to themselves. Yeah. When in reality what they needed to do is reach out 100%. To friends. Yeah. I'm blessed with my parents. I can't say it enough. I can't sing their praise enough. I have heard horror stories. I used to facilitate coming out workshops as well for USI when I was in college, so I used to like travel around and do that. And some of the horror stories I've heard is like what you said earlier about sitting here and like holding back tears. That was
100% the case with some of those workshops too.
They could be hurtful. Like, that's the scary thing, when it comes to this sort of stuff, is you brought this life. Like, you chose to bring, most of the time, you chose to bring life into this world. And how the fuck dare you?
No,
that's the scary thing about it, eh?
Yeah.
And words stick. Words
yeah,
stick
they do.
till
Words
this
matter.
day.
Words matter, because like so the other side of that was I said it to my mum, and that was grand and everything was cool on the front end, which was fine. She dealt with her own shit, and I appreciate that she did that and she spared me that. I said to her, don't tell Dad. I was like, I will tell Dad, but I just wanted to tell you first, and I just need to build up again, right? Because I have a gorgeous relationship with my dad. He's my fucking hero, but he's also a guy, so that was on my mind as well, right? And I just didn't know how, like, yeah, I just didn't know how it was going to go. So anyway, fast forward a couple of days later, and my dad has like a porta cabin out the back garden, and that's his office, right? And what I used to do is I'd go out there most evenings and we'd listen to Matt Cooper on Today FM, The Last Word. So I went out and I'd sit, my mum had a desk and a computer out there as well. She used to work on the side for my uncle, so I was sitting there and I was like noodling through like Bebo or whatever the shit it was, and we had our backs to each other the way we sat, and Matt Cooper comes on, and I swear to God, Debbie, like, I don't believe in God, I believe in the universe, but like, this was the universe or God or someone doing something to fuck with me, right? And I sat down and it was like, today on Matt Cooper we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking to the parents of gay children who blah blah blah. And when I say, like, I sank, I was like, oh my god. And usually me and my dad would like banter back and forth, or we'd talk, you know, they'd go to a break on the radio program and we'd talk, and we'd have to crack, like, he's the funniest man alive, I swear to God. So and there was just like this like silence for about like 15 minutes before they went to the first break, and then they cut to the break and I went back into the house. I didn't even say anything to Dad, and I walked into the living room and Sean was sitting on the couch. I was like, where's Mum? And he was like, I think she's up in the toilet, I think. And I marched up the stairs and the door was closed obviously, and I like knocked on the door and she was like, what? I was like, did you tell Dad? And she was like, well, I had to. And I was like, for fuck's sake. And I walked back down the stairs and I went back out to the port cabin anyway. I sat down and I was just scrolling again. There was silence, and I go, so Mum told you? And he was like, yeah. About what? And I was like, about the, you know, like I'm bi or whatever. And he was like, yeah, that's just grand. He goes, that's another thing we have in common anyway. And I was like, what? That we're bi? And he goes, no, that we like women. And I was like,
that's so good.
Yeah, he's the best.
I'm so happy to hear that. You know,
like I know not everyone's experience is like that, but like I know
he also was probably waiting to say that.
Yeah.
He might have scripted it.
Yeah, he probably was sitting on that.
He was probably sitting on that. You know.
Do you know what?
Oh, sure, be grand. Next. This is what I'll say. 100%. I don't have a problem with it.
Classic dads.
Classic.
Yeah. So.
Especially Irish dads. That's the one thing that I've noticed, like, so far. Like, the few, like, I don't come across Irish dads, like, every day, but whenever I do, they're very, like, oh, yeah. It's not a problem.
100%. I was having a great chat with sorry, we'll get back onto the queer thing in a second, but I was having a chat with a group of people last night, and sorry, there's this guy in the balcony across the way, right? He's been chain smoking for the majority of the time we've been
Orange
here.
Hoodie.
What?
Orange or yellow hoodie? It
was the yellow hoodie, but now he's out with no top on, so that's hilarious. And he like eyeballed me during one of like, it's so funny. Look,
my God, he smokes.
He fucking smokes like a chimney. I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know if it's joints or cigarettes. Would your parents smoke?
They both used to.
Cigarettes we're talking about, eh?
Yeah, so they my dad would have only really smoked when he drank. It's so funny when my mum and dad so my mum and dad are hilarious. Like, they're like two comedians themselves, like, they're fucking mental.
Are your brother and sister funny?
Oh my God, like I frequently think I'm the least funny person in the family.
Do you?
I swear to God,
you're just a good like script writer.
I'm the writing thing, but I'm also the loon, and this is what I like my group of friends as well. I always say to James, I'm like, I'm the least funny in the group, but like I am the one that when we were younger or whatever, this is my mom coming out at me, like one of the lads would be like, do you know what would be hilarious if we done X, Y, Z, whatever, and then the other guys would go, ha ha ha, that's funny, and I'm like, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll fucking do it. Yeah, give me that, let's do it. And like I would,
you were like a Dennis the Menace kind of
of thing where it would be like one of the things that's jumping to my mind right now is I went into the Chinese and placed an order when I was in an entirely blue morph suit, and your one was like freaking the fuck out.
No,
like I know it was in a blue morph suit and a pair of red cons.
Why?
I remember. I don't know why. And I just went, and one of the lads went in, like ordered a bag of chips or whatever, sat down, and then took his phone out and started recording. And then I walked in, and like I'm pretty blatantly wearing nothing but like a bra and knickers in the under the morph suit, and I went in and just done the transaction as it was the most normal thing, and she was freaking out. She wouldn't even hand me my change. Like she was standing back. I think she thought I was going to rob the place, actually, which isn't funny when I think about it now. But but like,
only if you had the balaclava on.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? My whole face was covered. It was just this blue morph suit and red cons and things like that. And I sat there and I like waited, and then half chicken balls, whatever. And it was like, thanks very much, and went off. And like, so there was always like that element to my personality where I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do it. That'll be hilarious. Like, you know.
So were you shy?
Yeah, I was shy when I was a kid.
But
I was just, actually still am, like big noises, anything like that would have set me off. So like motorbikes, fireworks, anything like that, couldn't deal with. My mom makes the joke a lot that like I was afraid of my own shadow, to the point where when I was about 2 or 3, they brought me to the Phoenix Park one day, and I turned around and I was like, oh, and she was like, no, it's your shadow, like you're okay.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where the confidence came from, really. I really don't know. I think it was always kind of the funny one in class and that kind of thing. But like I never got detention in school. Okay, you're the same. Okay, cool.
I was the girl in front, right in front of the teacher.
Yeah.
So I wasn't the funny one at the back. I was the funnier one in front.
Yes.
So not in trouble.
Yeah.
Causing chaos. Though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. I was never like overly I was a messer, but I wasn't like cheeky, or I wasn't disrespectful or whatever. So yeah, and I don't like, and then that's what it was. I started playing guitar when I was 10, and then I picked up bass shortly after that, and I was in a band when I was a teen. So from the time I was like 15 to like 22, so that whole like stage presence thing, I think, kind of came eventually. And actually won a review, or no, a bio that one of the clubs put up about me there, a club in Cork, was like, described my stage presence as punk rock, like of a punk rock stage presence. And I was like, I see where you're going with that, because
where do you imagine like your ideal show going, like if you were to visualize it?
As in like what is
like,
like
is it like stadiums? Is it tour?
The Apollo Live is something that I would live to do, and I sometimes when I love sleep. I love sleep so much. I find getting to sleep a big challenge. I'll be awake for like an hour or two after I go to bed, so I kind of have to try and improve that, because my head's just racing constantly, right? Like I'm just constantly thinking whether it's comedy, work.
Do you take CBD?
Huh?
CBD? No, the other one.
Yeah. But yeah, I go through phases where I stop that and will be on CBD, because you know, it's important to have it's important to have a balance as well between like how much you might be consuming of one thing and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I think you just need to manage that pretty carefully. But yeah, like that kind of thing. But again, I think frequently my friend described me as a functioning stoner once, and it made me laugh so hard, because he was like, sometimes, Jesus, I'd be worried if you didn't smoke, because like, I don't know what I only do it in the evenings, and it does help me get asleep and all that kind of stuff, so that's fine. But yeah, so I find sleeping quite difficult. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, so one of the things that calms me down, is when I think about Apollo Live, like what is it going to be like when I get there, and
calms you down.
Calms me down, and I just visualize it. And I'm not one of these people that like overly believes in manifestation. I believe like what can be will be, if you have the right mindset and the right work ethic. But yeah, the Apollo Live is what I am manifesting hard. I'm like, what song am I going to come out? Imagine what it's going to be like standing behind those sliding things that open, and you come out and the crowd's going nuts, and the smoke, and who's going to be in the front row, and who's going to be backstage waiting for me, and like, you know, all that kind of shit. And I love that. So that to me would be a huge achievement. Obviously you've got your Vicar Streets and stuff like that. That would mean so much to me, but already I've achieved things in my comedy career that like I stood on stage in Whelan's 2 years ago for a final. It's called the Cherry Breakout Act, and it was the main stage in Whelan's. It was a completely sold out show. It was 250 people crammed into Whelan's, and like that in the middle of the set, you have the bottom floor and you have the top floor, and I looked up and I was like, I feel like a fucking rock star right now. Like, this is a big deal to me. So yeah, I've been fortunate enough to do things like that, you know.
I wanted to ask you, considering that I have never done any live conversations or anything like that, how do you keep not even your ego in check, but did you ever like get to a point where you were criticizing yourself because you're like, oh my god, I'm enjoying this a bit too much?
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because it's actually, I would have considered it quite an Irish mentality where you're like, oh, I'm enjoying this, there's something wrong.
I'm telling you, Catholic shame.
Yeah, it is Catholic shame, 100%.
It's Catholic shame.
100%.
It's not the religion, it's the people, you know, it's the it's the church's influence on our parents and taboo and keep your head down. Yeah. That's what I mean when I say Catholic shame. I don't mean religion. Yeah,
it is. It's like, I always make the joke, like, Catholic shame is, or dictates the fact that I will only masturbate in the dark at night time. I don't do it.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that is it somehow.
Oh, I'm going to say something really bad. But if I really don't like someone, I think they're like really full of themselves or something, what I say is, oh, they definitely wank in the mirror. Like that is my. I say it out loud.
I love that. That is so true. So the Irish version of that is, Jay's. If he was a chocolate bar, he'd eat himself. Yeah. So
that's where I got like smacked in the head by. You know what I mean?
But you're so spot on. Yeah. 100%. In terms of the. That was a tangent well worth going on. So
let's talk about live crowds.
Yeah. And wanking in front of them, apparently. No, okay, so the ego thing, like, I thank MMA for a lot of things. One of them, so there used to be a sign in SBG that said, no shoes, no egos on the mat, and I loved that. And that's what I always think. So I play a game myself a lot of the time, especially if I'm going from work to a gig, right? I have a full-on job in work, and I'll hammer that out for 8-10 hours a day, and then I close my laptop, I put it in my bag, and I go to the gig. And when I'm on the way to the gig, I always think, I'm like, okay, it can only be this. It can only be this that's going through our head. I talk to myself like we're multiple people. That's probably a deeper issue. But I'm like, this is all we can focus on right now is gig, set, be funny. Like, that's it. And I have to gear myself. So it's taking off one hat and putting on another hat. In terms of like, am I enjoying this too much? I look at everything and I treat everything like a learning opportunity. I think that I think that I always try and make hay while the sun shines. I'm very naturally an optimist and things like that. So when things are going well, I acknowledge that they're going well, but I can always do better. If things are going badly, I acknowledge that we've had a bit of a fucking rough time of it at the moment, but you know what? Next week's gonna be different and it's gonna be okay, you know. So that's, I try and keep myself in check. I also have the benefit of seeing other comics around me whose egos are getting out of control or unjustified ego or, you know, whatever, and I learn from that because I have the benefit of seeing that firsthand, and I'm like, well, I don't like that, so, you know, I will never be that person. I might do a good job in something, and I'll acknowledge that I do a good job, and I share that with the people closest to me. I got a very important phone call during the week that is booking me for a thing that will come out soon, and
stay tuned
when I can talk. But like that, my mum and dad know, my Chris knows, James knows, the person I'm seeing knows, and say so. You know what I mean? Like, so I'll share it with the people that are quite close to me or you know, in the circle or whatever. And then outside of that, you know, just people look at me and they say, you know, I don't know where you get the energy from, or I don't know, whatever. I'm like, I don't really know either, but, you know, it's just fueled by the want to learn all the time, I think is yeah.
I agree with that. I think it's also acceptance in the sense of, like, I don't have a massive platform, you know, like I'm pretty much just very slow growth.
You're building.
Yeah. And it was fun. And so like you always hear of a lot of like people being like, oh yeah, then the numbers got crazy, I blew up, and then that's where everything hit. And I was like, I don't know. I think you can only tell when you get there. But it's probably like once you accept that, listen, if this gets big, I am okay with it getting big. I'm okay with having fun with it. Yeah. Then the chances of you losing touch with yourself are less. 100%. Does that make sense?
I couldn't agree with you more. And so coming from the social media specialist in me, what I would say to you is, if I was looking at your content and looking at, you're in the build phase right now, and something will happen, whether it's next week, next month, next year, something will happen. But you know what? That can be like a flash in the pan. A viral video can be a flash in the pan. What matters is what has happened before that and what has happened after that, because being sustainable and you're not building to be viral, you're building a fan base. And my job as a comedian and you're as a content creator as well, is building your audience. Like, that is your job as a comedian, you know what I mean, is to engage an audience and make them remember you. And that is what's going to guarantee my success, because I could go on Mock the Week now and have a great show or do whatever, have a and people will be like, oh, that they'll enjoy it for the 40 minutes or whatever, and then never think about me again. That's not what you want.
How many guests would have gone on the Late Late Show over here in Ireland?
Come on,
you get X amount of thousands of followers overnight, you know what I mean? But then as in your engagement plummets, you know,
100%,
which is so interesting,
yeah,
because you're kind of like, okay, I brought something good enough to the table to be recognized and go on the Late Late Show.
Yeah.
But then what happens after? That's the interesting
100%. Bit. And like the thing is, right? And sorry, I keep bringing it back to comedy terms, but I do feel it's relevant
to
and I feel like especially the modern day comedian needs to be a content creator as well, right? But
for sure.
Like 100%.
Like, I love content and I love storytelling. I wish I can do it more. Unfortunately, I have a job.
Yeah.
But if you want to be successful in this, probably even if you're an athlete, you have to be a content creator too.
100%, because it's the cult of the personality now. That's what I was saying with you earlier, like your brand building and bringing you more into it. But like, I'm going to use Joanne McNally as an example at the moment, right? Because she has so she's just done 31, or it was 30 gigs the other night. It was 30 gigs on Monday in Vicar Street she done, which I'm pretty sure has broken Des Bishop's record for the most sold out gigs in Vicar Street by an Irish comic. But I need to check that. So she's probably on 32, 33 now. And the thing about Joanne is, I was having a conversation with someone recently who isn't involved in comedy, and they're like, oh my God, like, she, that podcast, and it just came out of nowhere. And I laughed and I was like, oh, you've no idea. She has been grinding for so long, to the point where I was looking up something about the Vodafone Comedy Festival. It's not called the Vodafone Comedy Festival now anymore, but it was for years. And she was one of the like headline comedians in that festival in 2015. Like, that's a fucking long ass time, like that's 7 years ago. And now she's getting over, and she was in it, like, and that's when, like, if you're like one of the faces of the Vodafone Comedy Festival in Ireland, like, you're doing well for yourself. That is not an easy thing to get. So if you take that, and I don't know when she started, but it was probably easily 10 years before that. That is all that time spent grafting, doing gigs in bars, in rooms of bars that nobody cares about, and doing all that and building. So this isn't a flash in the pan for Joanne McNally. One podcast episode didn't make her, or one series didn't make her, or one Vicar Street gig didn't make her. It was all the things that came before that when it did start happening for her, she was ready for it and she was okay with it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, funnily enough, the shift. So like, I've always tried different like aspects to content creation, and it's only been podcasting that has stuck around.
Yeah.
Only episode 26, like, for me, right? But there came a point where things shifted with the podcasting, where now I prioritize episode number. I don't prioritize listenership. It makes me more happy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it makes me more happy when I see episode 30 and it's like going up the ranks in multiple countries.
Yeah.
I don't care. Of course, it's so nice. I remember being so buzzed when the episode with Bipolar Bear, where Stephen Constantine, like that was such a, I was happy that that episode is what put me on the map.
That was really touching, that episode. I thought
it was like a very meaningful, like it could, that was it, you know what I mean? So I was happy that that was charting on Spotify. But now whenever I get that email and it's like, look, South Africa, Dominica, like, it's
Incredible.
not one, it's not number one, but like it's just the element of like consistency. Like probably for you it's how many gigs are under your belt?
100%. So when we went into lockdown, I was very much in that mode. So I was talked about the maths of this recently. My first year I broke 150 gigs in my first year.
But that is something to boast about, no?
It is.
Not boast, I mean, but like...
It is if you are improving with every one.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think, yeah. I think there are people who...
Like, go with that and then they're shy.
Yeah. Exactly, though, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I get that.
And listen, like, everyone's
like, fair play to
special
your
in their
hustle.
own way. But,
Yeah.
like, you know, look, that's because Mike and Con said to me, like, eat as many minutes as you can. That's what you need to do in the early days. Just get it. And I told you, I was a nervous wreck before every single gig before the pandemic. Then I hit that number. Then we went into the pandemic and I panicked that everything I had been building towards was just flushed down the toilet. It wasn't, and I'm so grateful it wasn't. But I lost count of gigs after the pandemic. I stopped because none of that mattered to me anymore. What mattered to me was doing the thing I love the most in the world, again. So now, but I can see now with the benefit of hindsight, I'm so glad I did that many gigs in my first year. But I was burnt out by the time the pandemic came. You know, I wasn't healthy. I was stressed. My sleep patterns were all over the place. I was a little bit chubby. It was like chubbier than I would have been, that kind of thing. And you're just on the road, prioritizing comedy in the wrong way. So now I'm a little bit more selective with gigs. Just because I can do a gig doesn't mean I should do a gig sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, now you're in the position to pick and choose.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Probably at the early stages, everything is, unfortunately, we kind of function out of desperation.
Yeah, we do.
And that's what I learned, like, when it came to job interviews. I was... and that screwed me up big time. Desperation kicks you in the ass.
It's a powerful
It's
driver.
so powerful, and you don't even know it.
No.
And I think probably the main takeaway from this episode might be figuring out that balance. Like, there's always a back and forth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, like, even with desperation, because, like, you can call it putting your head down and hustle and all that, but then there is that desperation too.
Yeah.
And I think it's the emotional attachment to everything that you put on it.
100%.
I got burnt out because I was very attached to my fear of failure.
Yeah.
And getting a job and like figure, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And like you always hear like, oh, be kind to yourself or whatever. Like I find there's a weird duality to my personality, okay? And this is something I've talked about in another podcast with Cornelius. There's a weird duality to my personality, and learning to balance that has been a struggle. And learning to be comfortable with both sides of the coin has been a struggle, but I'm getting there. There, in terms of burnout and stuff like that, there are, how do I put this? When I started comedy, there was the franticness, the desperation. Like I have to get as many gigs as possible because I have to be as good as possible as quick. Going to music open mic nights, like, dude, there's a music open mic night. I need the 5 minutes, so I need them. Like, I don't want them, I need them. But now, how I look at it now is, like I said, just because I can do a gig doesn't mean I should do a gig. At the same time, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? Because I tell you what, this is what I want, like, and I'm going for it until I can't do it anymore, until I physically can't stand on the stage anymore. Like, and I don't know what end success looks like. I'm not in this for fame. I'm in this to tell a story, change people's days, weeks, sometimes, you know, like I've had people come up to me after gigs in rural areas of Ireland where they're like, it's so nice to see a queer comedian because I'm gay, but you know, no one knows or whatever. So, you know, and like you touched on representation earlier, like that's a big deal. I understand now that I don't have much of a platform right now, but it's growing and that's nice. But if I can use that to lighten someone's load a little bit, or like fill their heart with a little bit of gladness, or give them the same feeling I felt when I saw that forum that told me being afraid that everyone's going to die around you is actually a normal part of life, or a normal part of grieving and stuff like that. If I can offer that same level of comfort to someone, one person in a room every time I gig, then I'm doing something right. So I don't know what I'm aiming for exactly. Am I aiming for the Apollo Live? Yeah, of course I am. Is that why I'm in this? No. But
as cheesy as it sounds, man, you're just describing purpose.
That is purpose, actually. You're right. Yeah, like that's it.
There is a difference between passion and purpose.
Okay.
That's something that I learned from the book Grit.
Okay.
And purpose is when it's outside of you.
Yeah.
Passion, if comedy is your passion because it makes you feel better, you know, that's all fine. Not even fine and dandy. That's amazing.
Yeah.
The purpose is where it taps in from passion to purpose. Where you're like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Because it makes me happy, but I'm also seeing the benefit that is giving to other people.
Okay. I love that. Thank you.
And that's where you don't slow down.
Because, okay, so that's what I was going to say, because it feels like passion is what got me into this almost, or a bit of desperation as well, to be fair. Passion is what got me into this, but purpose is what has sustained me. That's what I think that's how I feel about it.
That's where the thing is sustainable,
Yeah.
Where you're just like, where it doesn't matter how many listens.
Yeah.
It matters like how often you're showing up.
Yeah.
And to that like few people that it does like help them out or give them a new perspective.
Yeah.
That's in it for like, that's the reason behind Take Two.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, because if you Google it, there's probably like quite a few results, but another take.
Yeah.
I want like another perspective.
I was going to ask you, where did the name for the podcast come from?
It was either that or Shaw Show.
I like Take Two. I like Shaw Show. But Take Two is more
I think
what this
Shaw
is about.
Show would have been quite an eye roll for a lot of people.
Well, maybe when you take the podcast on the road, that's what you should call it, is Shaw Show.
We'll talk about that. I'm not going to tell everyone my fucking secrets.
We'll take that conversation offline.
We'll take that conversation offline. So, how are we for time?
Okay,
Sinead, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, Sinead Walsh Comedy, TikTok, also Sinead Walsh Comedy, Twitter, which I would less recommend because I'm not very engaging on Twitter, I suppose. I retweet funny things.
I really try to be, but I know. Shit.
My friends are hilarious on Twitter though, so if you want to like follow me to follow them,
friends.
I completely
Sinead for her retweets.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, Instagram and TikTok are my main thing. So
amazing.
yeah.
Any final last words? I think I got a lot of wisdom out of you.
Jesus, I got a lot of wisdom out of you too. Let me think. Any final words? Jesus Christ, I wish I had thought about that more.
I'm putting you on the spot.
You are?
This is the first time I did it because I hate putting people on the spot when it comes to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yes.
But I think I enjoyed this, so I approached you in time for Pride.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I hope that like some people just like found a little bit of like.
Yeah, I think I let me think about this with the Pride theme. For every confident, lovely, gorgeous queer person that marches in Pride, there was a scared, like very, very fucking scared teenager or child, or maybe adult as well, there at some point. And I think that in this modern day and age, with corporations getting so involved in Pride, we've kind of lost sight of maybe what it was or what it meant to certain people, and some people just don't want to be part of a Pride thing at all. But I think that that's something for me whenever I go to Pride, is that fear and that loneliness and that like self-hate that I felt for so long is there in every single one of us, or was there in every single one of us. So the fact that we come together to celebrate that in the capital city of our country, with corporations marching side by side with us, is so huge. And yeah, I think looking back on it now, I think 13-year-old Sinead would be very proud and very happy of where I am now. So
like inner child.
Yeah, happy Pride, bitches.
Happy Pride, arsehole. Be safe in many ways. Please. Just for your sake and your head. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.
guys. This was
Goodbye,
amazing.
webcams.
Bye.
Numbered Days Collective.